Mountain warfare refers to warfare in the mountains or similarly rough terrain. This type of warfare is also called alpine warfare, after the Alps mountains. Mountain warfare is one of the most dangerous types of combat as it involves surviving not only combat with the enemy but also the extreme weather and dangerous terrain. Mountain ranges are of strategic importance since they often act as a natural border, and may also be the origin of a water source. Attacking a prepared enemy position in mountain terrain requires a greater ratio of attacking soldiers to defending soldiers than a war conducted on level ground. Mountains at any time of year are dangerous. Lightning, strong gusts of wind, rock falls, avalanche, snowpack, ice, extreme cold, glaciers with their crevasses and the general uneven terrain and the slow pace of troop and materiel movement are all additional threats to combatants' movement, reinforcements, and medical evacuation up and down steep slopes and areas where even pack animals cannot reach involves an enormous exertion of energy. History. Early history. The term mountain warfare is said to have come about in the Middle Ages after the monarchies of Europe found it difficult to fight the Swiss armies in the Alps. This was because the Swiss were able to fight in smaller units and took vantage points against a huge unmaneuverable army. Similar styles of attack and defense were later employed by guerrillas, partisans and irregulars who hid in the mountains after an attack, making it challenging for an army of regulars to fight back. In Bonaparte's Italian campaign, and the 1809 rebellion in Tyrol, mountain warfare played a large role. World War I. Mountain warfare came to the fore once again, during World War I, when some of the nations involved in the war had mountain divisions that had hitherto not been tested. The Austro-Hungarian defense repelled the Italians as they took advantage of the mostly mountainous terrain in the Julian Alps and the Dolomites, where more people succumb to frostbite and avalanches than to bullets. During the summer of 1918, the Battle of San Matteo took place on the Italian front. This battle was fought at the highest elevation of any in the war. In December 1914, another offensive was launched by the Turkish Supreme Commander Enver Pasha with 95,000–190,000 troops against the Russians in the Caucasus, insisting on a frontal attack against Russian positions in the mountains in the heart of winter. The end result was devastating and Enver lost 86% of his forces. World War II. Battles of Narvik, Kokoda Track Campaign, Operation Rentier, Operation Gauntlet. Kashmir Conflicts. The most dangerous and volatile of all mountain conflicts involves the ongoing one between India and Pakistan over the Kashmir region. Since the partition in 1947, both countries have been constantly locked in skirmishes and wars, mainly in this Himalayan region with the highest mountains in the world. The first hostilities between the two nations in the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947 showed that both were ill-equipped to fight in biting cold, let alone at the highest altitudes in the world. During the Sino-Indian War of 1962, hostilities broke out between the Republic of India and the People's Republic of China at some of the highest altitudes over the Himalayan mountains. Later wars between India and Pakistan were mainly fought in the valleys rather than in the mountains, although several major mountain battles took place in all these conflicts. This changed in the Kargil War when Indian forces were faced with the huge task of flushing out intruders and disguised Pakistani soldiers who had captured high mountain posts. This proxy warfare became the only modern war that was fought exclusively on mountains. As a result of its experiences in mountain warfare in Kargil, the Indian Army now conducts courses on specialized artillery use in the mountains, where ballistic projectiles have different characteristics. Falklands War. Although most of the Falklands War took place in the Falkland Islands themselves, on hilltops in semi-Arctic conditions, during the earlier stages of the war, there was some action in the bleak mountainous island of South Georgia. South Georgia is a peri-Antarctic island, and since the war took place during the southern winter, alpine conditions prevailed almost down to sea level. It was unusual, in that it combined aspects of deep-water long-range expeditions, Arctic warfare and mountain warfare. Operation Parakeet was ordered by British Admiral Fieldhouse on 12 April 1982. It was to involve mountain troops from D Squadron Shash in Ascension, 150 Royal Marines on the tanker Tide Spring, 2 SBS on Plymouth and 6 SBS in the submarine Conqueror. Conqueror was first on the scene and carried out a survey of key areas of the South Georgia coast. The operation was originally supposed to involve both Shash and SBS forces being infiltrated onto South Georgia by helicopters from the Tide Spring in Antrim, but the plan had to be changed when the two Wessex helicopters transporting the Shash troops to an ambitious location on the west coast crashed in atrocious weather conditions on Fortuna Glacier. The troops and aircrew were rescued by Antrim's Wessex helicopter, the last remaining to the expedition. War in Afghanistan. Throughout history, but especially since 1979, many mountain warfare operations have taken place throughout Afghanistan. Since the coalition invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, these have been primarily in the eastern provinces of Kunar and Nuristan. Kunar and eastern Nuristan are strategic terrain. The area constitutes a major infiltration route into Afghanistan, and insurgents can enter these provinces from any number of places along the Pakistani border to gain access to a vast network of river valleys. In this part of Afghanistan, the U.S. military has adopted a hybrid style of mountain warfare incorporating counterinsurgency theory where the population is paramount as the center of gravity in the fight. In COIN, seizing and holding territory is less important than avoiding civilian casualties. The primary goal of COIN is to secure the backing of the populace and thereby legitimize the government rather than focus on militarily defeating the insurgents. While this theory was successfully implemented in Iraq, it has been difficult to implement in Kunar and Nuristan, in the sparsely populated mountain regions of eastern Afghanistan. Strategists have argued for holding the high ground, a tenet of classical mountain warfare. The argument suggests that if the counterinsurgent does not deny the enemy the high ground, then the guerrillas will be able to attack at will. In the Kunar and Nuristan regions, U.S. forces continue to pursue a hybrid style of COIN warfare, with its focus on hearts and minds, disambiguation needed, and mountain warfare, whereby the U.S. forces seize and hold the high ground.